Hi, I'm George Pearson, and in this Photoshop Elements Beginner tutorial, we'll be looking at the top 10 things that beginners should learn first in order to get the most out of my YouTube videos for Photoshop Elements. Now, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you click that like button and also subscribe to my channel. If you want to learn everything about Photoshop Elements, then I'd suggest taking a look at my complete training, and you'll find links for that in the description and up in the upper right hand corner up there with the YouTube cards. Okay, let's get to it. Okay, the first things that beginners need to learn about Photoshop Elements is how do you want the program to start. Now, when you install Photoshop Elements, it's going to first open up with a welcome screen, and you then have an option of where you want to go at that point. Now, if you want to, you don't have to have the program open up with that welcome screen. You can go right to the organizer or right to the editor. I have mine set to go automatically to the editor. Let me show you how that's done. Go up here to the help file, and I'll bring back up that welcome screen. There we go. And little slideshow on there. As you can see, I'm in Photoshop Elements 15 right now, but this little trick works on all versions of Photoshop Elements. There'll be, the welcoming screen looks different in each program. They kind of redo this each time, but on all of them there's a little link someplace, normally upper right hand corner, which allows you to choose how you want to have the program open up, either with the welcome screen. It's not bad when you're just starting out, or with the organizer if you always are working with your organizer images, or what I always do, I start right with the photo editor. You can always go back to any place else once you're inside the editor if you want to or desire to. So click on that little gear icon right there, and this little drop down link, set that to photo editor, and then click done when you're all finished. You can then just close down the welcome screen like that. Now, the next time you open up Photoshop Elements, it'll open up in the editor directly. It'll skip that welcome screen. If you want that welcome screen back again, real easy, just go back up to the help menu and come down to welcome screen right there, and then you can change that setting. There it is. Okay, so that's my first tip, is to set your program to open up where you want it to open, and I like mine opening up in the editor. The second thing to understand about Photoshop Elements is this area right down here below the picture. Right now I have mine showing the tool options. You can unclick that. It gives you more room in here to work if you want to, but whenever you go to a tool, that's going to pop back up again. So this is the tool options. Now you can also minimize right there, a little arrow right there. Again, just choose any old tool and it comes back up again. But you can also, if you want to, do a quick look at any images you have open. You can have more than one image open at a time. Right now I have just this one, but just to the left of the tool options button down here is the photo bin. You can have this shown instead. If I had several images open, they'd all show up down here. Let me just show you that real quickly. I'm just going to open up just a couple of previous ones in here. Open up a little neon text thing I used in a previous video. There we go. So it's a second image is now open. As you can see, I now have two images open inside of my photo bin. You can go back and forth to the tool options and the photo bin just like that. If you want to open up one of these images, just double click on it and it sets it up. Right now I have this thing floating, and I'll talk about that in the next video, how you can float or unfloat your windows. So there's the dog image and there's that neon text sign. So there it is. That's the bottom section right down here, and either use it as your photo bin or as tool options. I found normally having it set at tool options is your best option when you're working inside of Photoshop Elements. One more little thing. If you go up here to the window menu, at the bottom you'll find both of your images right there. Any open images will be shown at the bottom of the window menu as well. So you really don't need to have or use the photo bin if you don't want to. But either way, it's just an easy way to see what you have currently open when you're working in Photoshop Elements. Across the top up here, you see we have these four tabs: eLive, Quick, Guided, and Expert. Right now I'm in Photoshop Elements 15. eLife came in just a couple of versions previously, three versions previously. If you're working with an older version of Photoshop Elements, you may not see that, but you will see the Quick, Guided, and Expert. For all of my videos on YouTube, I always work in the Expert mode. Quick is real nice if you're just doing something very, very fast, and also if you're just learning how to use the program. Same thing with Guided. Guided is an easy way to learn the program. There are a few things in here you can only get from the Guided section, such as panoramas, but most everything that can be done here can also be done in Expert mode, and even the quick stuff can be done just as fast in Expert mode once you learn how to use a program, once you become familiar with it. So I recommend just staying in Expert mode when you're working here inside of Photoshop Elements to get the most out of the program. With Expert mode, you have all of your options, you have all of your tools, everything is available to you right there. So the most power is there with the Expert mode. When you first install Photoshop Elements, it's set up to always work in tabs. That's what I have right up here. So I have these different tabs, and I can go back and forth between my images. Now it's very useful at times to be able to float a window just like this inside of your program. I can now see both of my images. If I was working back and forth between the two, it makes this very, very easy. I also can take something from this file and drag it over to this file. So you can actually transfer layers from one file to the other as long as it's floating, so it's easy to see what you're doing. Now to set this up, let me just show you this. I'm going to close this one out, get it out of the way for us there. Just go up here to the Edit menu, come down to Preferences and General right there. And what you need to do, right here it says Allow Floating Documents in Expert Mode. Make sure that is checked. So just go ahead and check that. And with that box checked, you'll then be able to grab the tab of your image, pull it away from the rulers like that. It then becomes a floating window. If you want to dock it again, just drag it up and it docks again. Now notice as I drag that up, you get a little kind of a light blue outline up there. You can kind of see it right there. When you see that, and also when the image goes kind of transparent, that lets you know you can let go at that point, and it's then docked into place. Also notice the rulers in here. I have my rulers displayed. You can show or hide your rulers from the View menu right there. If your rulers are displayed and you drag this down, notice how the rulers go with the image. So each image has its own set of rulers. Okay, so there we go. That's how to dock or float your windows, and again, very, very useful if you're working in more advanced images to be able to float your windows just like that or get them docked again. And one last time, that's Edit, Preferences, General, and the one right there says Allow Floating Documents in Expert Mode. Over on the right hand side of the workspace over here, we have several different panels. Here's an Effects panel, here's a Filters panel, Styles panel, Graphics panel, and there's some more. You can come in here, there's a whole bunch of these things, Navigator, a lot of stuff that you can come in here and open up as a right panel if you want to. I recommend leaving this on the Layers panel most of the time. That's the furthest to the left option right down here at the bottom. If you don't see that, if you can't see this in here, just go up to the Window menu and you'll find Layers right there, or hit the F11 key to open up that panel. It's that easy. Now, using layers, very, very powerful when you're working in images, and the more complex your image, the more important your layers are. For instance, in here, let me just close down, I'll just right click and disable that layer mask. There we go. In this, I have a background picture here and a foreground picture. The foreground picture, I've removed the background using a layer mask. We'll talk about this in just a little bit. And what that allows me to do is to put another layer on another image rather on a layer underneath this image. There's the original picture right there. That actually, we're looking at the background here and the foreground dog there, but that's the original picture. And by stacking the image elements into layers, it allows you to choose to show or hide whatever it is that you want. Let me just hide the background. So here's our dog with a transparent background. That's on this top layer. Beneath him is another layer here where I have a nice landscape, just like that. So I'm actually merging these two pictures visually by using layers. Very, very important. Of course, our layer masks are available here as well. We're able to use blending modes from the Layers panel. We can change the opacity of a layer over here with the opacity setting. Across the top, you can make new layers. You can make new layer groups if you're working in version 15 or better of Photoshop Elements. Right now, 15 is the newest version, but they'll have a new one soon. So you can use groups, create tool. We can make new fill or adjustment layers right here. I can create layer masks with that button. That's a layer mask right here. You can lock layers or transparencies. You can delete layers and layer masks. So there's a lot that you can do right here from the layers panel. Very, very important. But this really is one of the most basic elements of working with more complex images and having a lot of power inside of Photoshop Elements is to make good use of your layers. Don't worry if you get a lot of layers, doesn't matter. You can show or hide layers as you need to. There's the dog in and out. And you can move layers around. You can change their order. There's a lot you can do with layers, and I'll be doing a video just about layers coming up just a couple of days after I first post this video. So coming up real soon here. But very, very powerful, and you need to become familiar with working with layers to get the most out of Photoshop Elements. One of the most basic techniques that I use in almost every single project I do is making selections. Lots of ways of making selections. That's this whole bit over here. It says select on the tools panel. We have our marquee selections, rectangular and elliptical. We have our different lasso tools, the regular lasso, the polygonal lasso, and the magnetic lasso. And we have the magic wand tools in here, which also include the quick selection tool and the selection brush tool, and also the refine selection brush tool if you're working in version 15 or better. So a lot of selection tools, and I have whole videos about how to do that. Actually, this dog video is specifically about using selections to cut the dog out of its existing background, which is that one, and give it a new background. I'll put a link to this dog video in the description if you want to go ahead and take a look at that and see how that project is done. It's really easy, straightforward, but it's a very good project on how to do one type of selection. Also how to use a refine edge tool on that selection. But whenever you need to overlap layers like this and show parts of one layer under a different layer, you're going to have to make a selection. So it's a very, very important technique to learn how to do. So take a look at the video for this one. I have a lot of my videos, probably most of my videos even, use making selections as part of the video process. So as you watch my YouTube videos, you'll get a good handle on how to make selections. But pay close attention to that. Again, it's one of the most important basic techniques to learn if you want to do really nice quality work here inside of Photoshop Elements. Another basic that you need to learn if you really want to harness the full power of Photoshop Elements is right here, this little tab that says Normal at the top of the layers. These are your blend modes, and these allow you to blend one layer with layers underneath. So if I click on the dog layer up here, I can choose how this dog layer blends in with the layer underneath. The normal mode is it just sits on top. There's no actual blending, it's just sitting on top. I can control the opacity over here, so you can kind of see through it or not if you want to. There's a real basic see-through picture. There you go. But you can also blend using these different blend modes, and they do different things. Normal is, as I just said, dissolve kind of puts kind of weird speckly things sometimes. You can't really see it on this one. Depends upon your image and your background how well you can see that. This section darkens your colors down. This section lightens your colors up. This has different lighting effect blends and some special effects stuff. Now the easy way to use this is just to click on the first one like that and then use the wheel on your mouse to just roll through the different effects. For instance, here's lighten, and you can see that it's only lightening up the image where the image is darker than the part of the dog. So the light parts of the dog are showing through, the darker parts are not, because we're only lightening the image based upon that dog image. Again, interesting kind of a ghosty effect. There's a screen effect. There's lots of different effects. Here's the overlay effect, different lighting effects. Some of these are real harsh. There you go, kind of hard mix. Some are strange. There's just a color shift, saturation, luminosity effect. Basically taking the dog as a black and white image and using the values to change the background based upon the values of the dog, or changing your luminosity. But very, very powerful tool. It's kind of weird looking here, but it's a real powerful tool, and I use these blend modes all the time in my projects. So as you watch my YouTube projects, you'll see this consistently. I'll be using these blend modes for different effects. Very, very powerful, real basic tool to learn how to use. Let's switch over to the Enhance menu up here. All of your stuff for adjusting your values, doing your photo retouching stuff, all of that is here under the Enhance menu. At the top, we have all of these auto settings up here. Below that, we have the manual settings. Adjust color settings are in here. Your adjust lighting settings are right there. There is an adjust smart fix, which gives you some control over this option up here. It's kind of like this option with a slider control on it. And your convert to black into your fancier stuff right down there. Now my recommendation is to learn how to use these tools down here. Don't rely on this stuff up here. I almost never use these, and instead I go for the tools that have more control. That's because these have controls and these don't. These just set the setting at one default setting, and whatever it is, whether it works or not, that's what you get. Whereas your controls down here, you actually have adjustment settings in it to control how this works. For instance, let's take a look at the contrast here, brightness and contrast. Here's auto contrast. You click on it, and there it is. It's already a good picture, so it's fine. You don't really need anything. But notice that there was nothing that you could even see happening. You had no chance to make any adjustments on that. Let me just undo the auto contrast. There we go. And let's now compare that to, under lighting, brightness and contrast. Here I have a contrast control. I can actually choose how much contrast I want right from this slider control. So I have all kinds of control here that I didn't have with these auto options. So I recommend staying away from these auto options except for that one right there, auto red eye fix. That actually works. It's actually good. So aside from that, I ignore all the rest of these, and my recommendation is to come down here and learn how to use the regular controls where you actually can do some control and make a decision on how you want things to look. Here's where your real power is. If you're in a real fast hurry, you only have 2 minutes, then use one of those. You have more than 2 minutes, come down here and use the proper control. Let's move back over here to our layers panel and look at these boxes on the right hand side. These are layer masks, and this is the best way if you are trying to get something transparent on a layer. In this case, I'll just hide these two. So you want to get the background transparent. There are two ways of going about doing that. One is to erase the background, leaving the part you want to keep. That's the easy way. That's the basic way to do that. But if you erase it, you can't ever get it back. If you make a mistake on an edge, it's real hard to fix because you've erased it, you've gotten rid of it. But if you use a layer mask, as I have over here, the layer mask will show where it's white and will hide where it's black. So by doing that, this in effect cuts out the background. But if I disable this, I'll just right click on the layer mask, disable layer mask. The background is actually still here inside of the picture. I never touch this. This is what's called non-destructive editing. I don't actually damage this layer. All I'm doing is hiding a part of it. So let me just enable this again, enable layer mask. There we go. So I've hidden that background. I haven't erased it or deleted it. And that allows me to go back in and make adjustments. If I need to fix something on an edge, I can fix it over here on the layer mask without touching the original image. So it protects the original image, keeps it clean, keeps it safe, and that's why you have the power of layer masks. Plus, they'll do neat things you can't do with the erasing tool. For instance, I can put in a gradient in here, a black to white gradient, and it will give me a transparent gradient where I can fade a background out. So I could have it, the dog right in here, and then kind of with his background, then fading out to a different background. You can't do those kind of things by erasing and deleting. You don't have that power. So again, one of those things that you need to really understand how to use and to learn and practice is working with these layer masks. And you'll see how this one was done if you watch the video on this dog. And again, the link for that is in the description. At this point, I had a lot of options to choose what I want to have as my number 10 tip, my number 10 thing to learn. There's lots of things we haven't touched on or discussed here. Of course, I haven't already looked at the tools, for instance, a lot of things that we can do, but I wanted to talk about something which I use all the time and most people completely ignore because they don't know how to use that. And that's over here is the graphics right there. Graphics, and then specifically the shapes. What you get are all these black and white shapes in here, just kind of black shapes. These are really powerful if you know how to use them, and I use these all the time in my graphics projects. A lot of my greeting cards will be based on shapes, working with shapes one way or another. I'm going to show you a real fast technique on how these things can be used. I'll just come down here and I'll grab a heart, which is pretty easy to use. Just come down a little ways further. I'm using the wheel of my mouse right now to scroll up and down. Let me just grab this kind of rough one right there. Let's double click on that. That brings that shape up. It's coming in just as a white fill right now. You can change the fill with a paint bucket. I'll just change this to a black fill. There we go. Just a black fill on that. Now to show you the power of these things, if you just have them just as a shape like this, it's not that exciting. But you can use these to either put images inside of a shape, or you can colorize these and make them look like real nice 3D artwork. Let me show you the first one first. I'm just going to take this, I'm going to grab the corner here and just kind of make this big enough to contain the dog picture. And that looks pretty good right there. Click on the green check mark. Okay, there's my layer. Let's go over here. I'm going to disable my layer mask, just like that. Let's put this shape underneath the dog. There we go. So shape below, dog on top. Right click on the name of the layer and create clipping mask. And that puts your dog picture inside of that shape. There you go. You have a nice masked shape or masked picture inside of that nice little shape. As you can see, real easy to do, just a couple of clicks, and there you go, an image inside of one of these custom shapes. That's just one thing which you can do. Let me just now get rid of that. I'll just release that clipping mask. Let's put this shape up on top, and I'll hide everything else for the moment. Let's now do something different with this shape. I'll come down to the effects down here. Let's just go to our styles instead. This is even better. Go to our styles, and I'm going to choose the glass button styles, and I'll drag one of these onto the shape, and it applies that style onto the graphic. All of a sudden, what I have is a three-dimensional graphic image, real nice full color image here instead of that black and white shape, just by grabbing one of these different styles here and dragging it on. Let's do a couple more of these. Let's come down and let's do a wow neon. I'll do this one in blue's kind of nice. There we go. I've added this blue to this thing. Got a weird outline effect. So real easy to make full color artwork based upon these different graphic shapes, or you can use this as masks and put pictures inside of these. There's just loads and loads of uses that can be made out of these, and you'll see these all the time in my graphics projects. For instance, I used this paint splash right here in my graffiti wall art tutorial. I've used this in other tutorials. I've used a lot of these shapes in different ways in other tutorials. You use these flowers in different tutorials. I use that flower actually in the graffiti art picture as well. So very powerful. You really need to take a look at these and learn how to use these basic shapes and how you can modify these shapes either by coloring them, giving them different looks, or using them as masks for your photographs. Let's go back to our layers again here. I'll just hide that one and bring these back up again. Notice also this kind of interesting thing that it still is a black and white shape over here. All of this stuff are effects. All those styles are effects applied onto that shape. If I double click where it says effects on the layer here, I can come into my style settings and actually adjust the quality of those different shapes. Here's a drop shadow effect in there. I can adjust that look a little bit. I have it inner and outer glow effect, I can come in here and adjust. Working on that last application, that last style we just put on there. Little bevel effect in here. There we go. So again, that gives you even more control by using these layer styles with your effects. Okay, and a little bonus 11 tip here. If you really want to learn how to use Photoshop Elements, the best way to do that is to use my complete training. And again, you'll find a link for that in the description and up in the upper right hand corner, that little button for the YouTube cards. Use that to learn how the program works, where I demonstrate every single tool, every single menu item, every single panel, so you understand how the program works. And once you know the program, then use my YouTube training projects as practice to really learn and become an expert in working with Photoshop Elements. Okay, so there you go. That's my top 10 plus 1 things for beginners to learn on how to use Photoshop Elements. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it useful. If you like this video, click on the like button below to let others know. You can click the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos in the future. I'm frequently uploading new training videos. Don't forget to check out my website at howtogurus.com.